I am going to officially start this incredible presentation. So just to reintroduce myself, for those of you who haven't had chances to find out who I am, I mean, it's on there. It says Ann Park. Yes, I'm Ann Park. I'm the career strategist here at Blueprint Career Services at U of T's School of Continuing Studies. And I am proud to present Industry Insights, Careers with the University of Toronto. Next slide, please. Thank you. We're going to do a quick access check. So if you'd like to put in the chat, please, if you have any challenges hearing me, if you can't see the presentation clearly, and if there are any other access needs that might affect your participation, you can just put that in the chat. But I will remind folks that this session is being recorded. There is an audio recording that will be shared on our Blueprint Career Services website, and a video is being taken. Next, I would like to do a very important land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. And for thousands of years, it's been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. And in my practice, I work towards decolonization by learning the histories of Indigenous people and working to identify moments where I have engaged in practices which are oppressive towards Indigenous people, and recognizing the privilege that I have as an immigrant settler in my possessionality. So that's very important. If everyone can put themselves on mute and maybe turn off their cameras, with the exception of Sharon, just for now, just because we have so many participants here today. Typically, we have cameras on, mics on, but just so many words, the system's going to crash. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's take care of a bit of housekeeping. As I just said, please do keep your mics off during the presentation. Now it says we encourage you to turn your cameras on during the presentation, but for this particular presentation, it's actually opposite. Just because we have so many people signed up, we are worried the system's going to crash. But please do feel free to post questions and comments in the chat during the presentation. I might be able to respond to some of these comments, but if there are specific questions directed towards Sharon, we will make sure to have ample time to ask these questions to her, because we know we have so many participants, and I'm sure that folks out there are itching to find out information from her. So please do put questions, comments in the chat. And again, this session is being recorded and will be posted on our Blueprint Career Services portal and will be shared on YouTube. And the PowerPoint. We're going to share that with all of you, thanks to our very kind guest, Sharon. Before we facilitate our incredible, have Sharon facilitate her incredible presentation on careers at U of T, because of course that's what you're here for, I'd like to tell folks out there a little bit about Blueprint Career Services and what we do, in addition to our incredible Industry Insights panel. So we are with Blueprint Career Services. My name is Ann Park. Like I said, I'm the career strategist here, and I am the only career strategist here. So pretty much every service that you're going to get at Blueprint is going to be facilitated by me. And I've worked in this industry as a career counselor, as a career strategist for 20 plus years. The time has just flown by. And over the years, working with lots of different folks, there is a question that people tend to ask me. Can anyone guess? Like, you can just put your answers in the chat. Like, what do you think is the number one question that people ask me when they come to see me seeking employment counseling? Can you help me with my resume, for example? You can just type in the chat. How do you network? What do you think is the most common question? How can I get a job at U of T? Oh, that's a good one. Yes, certainly. How do I get hired? What's the process and how long is it? What's the best way to get my resume noticed? Yeah, absolutely. How do I get noticed? Yeah. It's true. How do you get noticed? Can you give me a job? Mary, you won the prize. I don't really have a prize, but absolutely. So the number one question I get asked from folks who I work with is, can you promise me that you'll get me a job or that I will get hired? And the answer is yes, I can promise you that. But in order for us to work together effectively and for you to get a job, you will really have to work together. But in fact, next slide, please. Over 90% of the folks I've worked with over the years have successfully secured employment. And it's through my hard work, dedication, connections with a wide variety of of professionals in various networks. It's been very successful, and I'm proud of the work that we do here at Blueprint Career Services. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. Great. So let's talk about the amazing services that we have here at Blueprint Career Services. So first of all, we have something called Career Nav, one-on-one career strategist sessions with me. We would be getting individualized support, in which we would identify some of the challenges that you might have to securing employment, and then working towards developing solutions together. It's a very special kind of work that we do together, and I'm there with you every step of the way until you become successful in achieving your career goals. Next, we have the Clifton Strengths Workshop, which is includes an assessment identifying your top 5 strengths, a 3-hour workshop, and a one-hour one-on-one Clifton Strengths consultation with me. And really what you're learning from this session is what your strengths are, how to market them to an employer, and how to find jobs that are the best fit, that really elevate your skills and your strengths. Next, we have the Career Wayfinding Series workshops, and these are 3-hour workshop series based out of Stanford University's wildly successful Design Your Life series. And so the approach is a very planned approach to planning and designing your career. It really puts you in the driver's seat of your career instead of feeling at the mercy of employers. Next, we have the Alternative Careers Workshop. This is an incredible opportunity for internationally trained professionals from regulated professions to learn about alternative careers as they pertain to the profession that they were working in previously, and to find out what their options are if they so choose to go into something else, or maybe go back to their original profession. And last but not least, all of you are here for our Industry Insights panels. Those are offered every other month, and we choose various industries in demand, such as banking, social work, etc. We have a whole library, and we have experts to chat about them, just like Sharon. We also have Real Talk, in which we choose specific topics as they relate to employment, such as networking for introverts, mastering the ATS. And so folks chat about these incredible topics, and really we provide some expert advice. And so we have a good question here. Are the courses available to public? And thank you for your comments, everyone. So I would like to talk about the cost briefly. So there is a cost for all of our offerings, with the exception of Real Talk and Industry Insights. They're absolutely free. But if you're receiving Ontario Works or ODSP, all of our services can be offered cost-free on a case-by-case basis. Just chat with your caseworker to find out more information. And if you want to find out more information about the cost, please do reach out to us. And thanks, Samin. I'm glad that they're here. We say something very, very nice. Thanks, Samin. But yeah, please do reach out to us if you have any further questions about how that works. You can email us at this wonderful email address down here, scs.blueprint@utoronto.ca, or ask questions in the chat. Next slide, please. Is it for full-time students? Yes, you can be a full-time student, participate in all of our offerings. There are no eligibility criteria to participate in any of our services here at Blueprint Career Services. You don't need to be an alumni, a student. Just a willingness to invest some time into furthering your career. Thank you for asking that, Mal. And this is me, of course, so please do reach out to me via LinkedIn. I do post some articles, and I share information about upcoming events. And if you have any questions, or if you want to chat more about what we do here at Blueprint Career Services. So this is me. Look me up on LinkedIn. I will accept you as a friend. Next slide, please. Great. And without further ado, this is what you're all here for. I would like to introduce our incredible guest speaker, Sharon McBean. Sharon McBean is a talent acquisition and sourcing at the University of Toronto. And Sharon, I'm just going to briefly introduce her. She's worked in the recruitment industry for over a decade in the nonprofit on Bay Street, UK, and finally settling in with U of T in 2006. And she started at U of T engaging with students, assisting navigating career pathways based on discipline and interests, facilitating job search workshops, participating in employer events, and much more. She's worked in recruitment and for a number of years, as you know, and Sharon shares her expertise on the various recruitment pathways, analyzing job postings and benefits of working here at U of T. So this is what she's going to do today. Sharon continues to provide career guidance and support to diverse communities seeking employment within the University of Toronto. Sharon is a certified career development professional and I had to research this, Sharon. She is a certified career development practitioner, a certified human resource professional, and she is a member of the Human Resources Professional Association. Without further ado, I'd like to have a warm welcome and introduce our wonderful colleague and friend, Sharon McBean. Welcome, Sharon. Woo-hoo. Thank you
Hello,
so much for
Anne.
joining us.
Hello, everybody. That was an amazing introduction. I really appreciate that. So I'm just going to share my presentation here. So just give me a moment. And share. And I just want to make sure you can see the title page. Yes?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Oh, I
Yes.
can see it. Can everyone else see it? Oh, we have lots of yeses here, Sharon.
Oh, okay, great. So,
Now
and clearly you can hear me, right? Okay, great.
It's black.
Um,
See,
yeah.
sorry, it
Sorry?
says that it's black. The screen is black.
Oh, I think Amal, you might be having some technical difficulties on your end because I'm seeing a lot of yeses.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Sorry.
Maybe for now, maybe if you want to restart your computer, or maybe for now,
Yeah.
just listen. Oh, and I can see someone says it's blurry. I can see it pretty clearly, but I do apologize for that, for those who are having challenges. Oh, and Mary suggested you have other tabs closed. That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe make sure your other tabs are closed, or
Yes.
maybe, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So can I continue? Okay, great. So, hi, in front of such a large audience where people are interested in hearing about U of T and all that has to do with recruitment at U of T. So let's see, I'm just going to share my next slide. So this is the agenda. So for today, I'm going to cover a few topics. So one, I want to talk about my role and how I kind of got here at U of T. And as well, like to just give you a little bit of insight about recruitment at U of T. And then we'll get into the meat of the types of opportunities that are available here, as well as, and I think, this may be of really good value, is the recruitment cycle. And so in the recruitment cycle, we'll talk about, as a recruiter, our process, and then as a job seeker, some things to consider and to look out for when you're submitting your applications. We also have a division called UTemp, which is an internal staffing service here at U of T, and they offer casual work, but it's another entry point. So not only do we have our postings listed on our career site, but we also have UTemp too as a viable option for employment. And then wanted to, just offer some clarification about some of our hiring practices, because we do attend a lot of events, job fairs, and we interact with a lot of people. And, they have questions about their applications or what happens to their applications and some other things. So we'd like to chit chat about that. And then I will close off with what's it like to work at U of T. Okay. And I think there'll be a little bit more of a testimonial, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. Before we go on, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to U of T. I remember when I had just come back from England, I was working in recruitment agencies over there. And then I came back to Toronto, and I was doing temp work here and temp work there, and just kind of just getting re-climatized, because when you've moved abroad and then moved back, there is reculturalization that has to happen. It's a real interesting phenomenon. But anyway, I had made a decision that I wanted to get back into recruitment. And so I was taking some classes at George Brown in the evening. And one evening I came across a former colleague, and she said, well, I told her, that I wanted to get back into recruitment because we had worked together. And she said she was working at U of T in the Career Center. And so it was great. So I said, oh, you got any openings available? Tell me, right? Tell me what's going on. How can I get a job at U of T? There you go. That all important question. And it just so happened that there was an opportunity. It was a contract position. And she said, apply for it. And then I'll just let people, the hiring panel know that you've applied. And, she couldn't make any guarantees, but she just said, we'll see what happens. So I applied for the position. Interviewed, and I ended up getting the role. Now, in the career counseling world, we kind of call that happenstance, because what had happened was, even though I had set the intention that I wanted to get back into HR, to get back into recruitment, I didn't know, and I wasn't deliberate about it. It just so happens I happened to come up across someone that was working in the field, and then I made my intentions known, and things worked out. So I had the skills, I had the experience, etc., but it just happened. And that's what happenstance theory is. So I just wanted to share with you that that's kind of how I got to U of T. So, and I've been here since 2006. So it's, U of T's been very kind to me. So I want to talk a little bit about the area that I work. It's called talent management, and it's been around since about 2019. And basically, what we do is we are a small unit within HR. There are 13 divisional HR offices. And as part of talent management, we enrich staff leadership, meet the needs of our employees, and we also leverage internal and external talent and networks. So there's a lot there that has to do with recruitment, and also going towards creating a good candidate experience when they apply, and also creating good employee experiences while they are working with the university. So overall, in my role in strategic sourcing, talent acquisition, recruitment, you say those words and people they get what I do, right? And so, but my role kind of carves off into two pathways. So there's the strategic sourcing piece where I work with our HR partners. And so if our hiring managers are having difficulty filling some of the roles, or if they've gone through multiple recruitments and they're still not getting the desired applicant pool, then they will reach out to me and they will say, hey, Sharon, we're going to post again, but we need to do something a bit more proactive so that we can enrich the applicant pool. And so I offer a variety of resources, meaning posting on community job boards, different diversity job boards, industry job boards. But as well, I use sourcing tools, mainly LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the most important sourcing tool that I use when I'm looking for candidates for roles. And I use keyword searches, like LinkedIn has a special recruiter license for recruiters, and that gives me access to people's profiles. So people that have set their profile as being open to the public, or they set themselves up to say open for work, these are the people that I can see. I can see their profiles. And so when I'm searching for people, I'm using a variety of filters, a variety of keywords, and then LinkedIn will help me find people. And with LinkedIn, I can reach out to these individuals and say, hey, there's this opportunity that I think that you would be great for. If you're interested in learning more about the role, please get in touch with me and we can chat. Or here are the details, please consider applying. So that is proactive recruitment, because I'm actually sourcing and reaching out to people. I also build talent pipelines too, for if I know there are going to be upcoming roles where, again, we're looking at enriching the applicant pool. So I will have, different talent pipelines for different types of roles. and I can reach out to individuals about these positions and ask them to consider posting. So that's the sourcing acquisition piece. And then there's my community outreach piece. And so a lot of what I do has a diversity lens in it, because the intention for the university is to make sure the employee base is reflective of the population of the city. And so how do we do that? So we intentionally attend events such as job fairs, industry panels, lots of different events. And I also have relationships with different community organizations. So there's Indigenous organizations, people that are new to Canada, Asian organizations, 2S LGBTQ plus, Black African Canadian. So any kind of diverse organization, diverse community. And if there are organizations, I try to establish relationships with them. So one, I can attend their events. And then two, I can also share job opportunities so that they can share it with their constituents. And this is really important because in order for the university to be considered an employer, sometimes, people need to be reminded that, hey, the University of Toronto is hiring and is interested in talking to you, is interested in meeting with you, wants to share who we are and what we do. And so these are intentional activities that talent management and, a good focus of my role, that's what we're responsible for. So that's me in a nutshell. And then we have an internal staffing service I mentioned before called UTEM. And so we'll talk about the recruitment process for that. I work very closely with UTEM because one, I used to be a recruiter for about 8 years or so, I think, with UTEM. And so it's a great entry point for careers at the university. It's just that it's casual work, it's contract work, it's not permanent. But there are a lot of fairy tale stories that happen, meaning people go on to secure permanent work as a result of working at UTEM. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And then as well, our HR offices, they look to talent management for recruitment best practices. So best practices could be anything about structuring and interviewing, how to do testing, how to provide accommodation for someone that is invited to attend an interview. And then around equity, diversity, and inclusion, how do we embed practices in our recruitments in order to encourage people to apply for the roles in order to get in front of communities that would even have considered working at the University of Toronto. And so we provide a bit of knowledge and expertise in that way, but we also work with our equity partners as well as our accommodation partners too for best practices. And then there's succession planning. So once an employee is part of the university, we're always looking to, and excuse me when I say we, I'm just so used to talking we, but in general, the university is looking at how to discover the latest leaders internally, how to build skills, how to build different experiences so that they have an enriched time when they're working at the university, and also to build careers and to build future leaders. So how is that done? Activities like mentoring, career coaching, secondments, stretch assignments. There's all sorts of activities that people leaders can get involved in, and they can share with their high potential employees in order to help them successfully transition to more progressive careers. And then there's onboarding. And then onboarding is about when a new person comes to the university or when an employee goes into a new role. You don't just say, hey, congratulations, and here you go, here's your new job. There is a journey that person goes through when they're onboarding. So it's everything from, where's the coffee, where's the washrooms, but it's also setting up your computers. It's also establishing some introductions and a mentor and some colleagues. And so it's a whole process so that a person can learn about the environment that they're in, know what supports are available to them if there's any challenges, but then as well, welcome them in, a timely fashion. So there's lots of strategies around succession planning and onboarding. Okay, so just a quick overview of the university. over 3 campuses and hospitals and some other research affiliates. We have over 22,000 people working here. So U of T is considered public sector. We have a very complex unionized environment. We've got over 10 unions, employee groups, and collective agreements. So from a recruitment lens, it is very multi-layered because each collective agreement has terms around recruitment and hiring. And so we have to be able to follow those collective agreements for union roles and similarly for non-union roles. So recruitment it can be quite a challenge, but it's not. And then the types of roles that are available. There's so many, you know, Anne mentioned that a lot of times when people say, when you tell them that you work at the University of Toronto, they'll say, oh, do you teach? And there's that part, but there's so many other roles that keep the institution running. Like, yeah, there's HR, there's IT, there's operations, there's caretakers, landscapers, there's events, there's a lot of different roles here. And so we'll go into those a little bit more. And then as well, the benefits, I think U of T has won quite a few awards for diversity employer, you know, best place to work in Toronto. And all of these different awards come because we have established sort of culture and values. And yes, we have great benefits. So benefits include a pension. If you're a lifelong learner or you like professional development, there's definitely a lower cost, if not free, for those courses that you take. Many of the courses that are offered through the School of Continuing Studies, there are waivers for employees, and so they don't have to pay, or the fee is very limited. And I, for one, have taken advantage of a lot of the courses at School of Continuing Studies. So, you know, regardless of if you're an employee or not, I would definitely recommend taking courses here. And then we also have, you know, our insurances, our vacation days, etc. And then another great benefit is the career pathing, is the support and the guidance that's available to people to build their careers, whether it be in one particular trajectory like myself, more in recruitment and HR, or, you know, people move around from student services to administration to project management to finance, etc. So there are lots of supports in order to have a lot of movement and try different roles. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the types of jobs that are available. So I just wanted to preface this by saying that I cannot speak about academic hiring or academic jobs, because that is a whole nother process. It has there's an HR office that deals specifically with academic hiring. And if there are any questions in regards to the process and what's needed and what happens, on the careers page under the FAQs, there's a section that talks about the academic hiring process. So just want to preface that. So, okay, so let's start left, top left, hospitality and events. So at the University of Toronto, we've got what's called Heart House, and Heart House is, it's a very unique space. They have movies there. There's also events that they hold that involve food. So they are always looking for servers, people that, yes, can serve, and also people that can do event planning, people that know how to interact with lots of different groups, meaning students, internal stakeholders, could be academics, could be administration, as well as external communities. So there's that piece. Trades and general labor. So yes, there are electricians, there's construction, there's project managers. And believe it or not, one of the roles that comes up frequently and is probably one of the hardest to fill are caretakers and landscape technicians. So I'm going to speak specifically to caretakers and landscaping because that is a constant need. So with landscaping, or sorry, with caretakers, that's people that can clean the buildings, clean the washrooms. You know, they've got their health and safety. They know how to work with different chemicals and the like. There's also a lot of different shift work in these types of roles too. So there's days, mornings, evenings, weekends, and sometimes the scheduling that doesn't always work for everyone that's looking for work. Sometimes there's part-time, sometimes there's full-time. But I could say that if you know anyone that's interested in doing caretaking or landscaping, particularly at any of the campuses, not just downtown, ask them to check the listings because those postings come up regularly. In fact, they're open right now. And even with the landscaping, yes, is shoveling the snow in the wintertime, de-icing, the flowers and the grass in the regular season. So there are those types of roles, and believe it or not, they are a little bit more challenging to fill than we would like them to be. So moving on to leadership roles, many of the roles, and when you're looking at the job postings, you can see that many of the roles that they're looking for people that have experience working in higher ed. Working in higher ed, working with academics, working with government, working with administrators is a special type of culture, special type of communication. So, if you know people that are in leadership roles at higher ed or are interested in getting into that, then hopefully, these are the experiences they have, because more than likely the posting is going to ask for these types of requirements. And then we also have the fundraising and the advancement activities. So the university is constantly fundraising, to fund bursaries and scholarships for students, also to advance research in certain areas. So there is a lot of donor management here, a lot of relationship building and finesse when you're asking for sometimes very large sums of money. And this is from alumni as well as philanthropists. And then we've got research and librarians. So these roles, you'll see constantly, and they have their specializations as well. Accounting and finance. The special thing about these roles is we use a system called SAP, and particularly a customized system called FIS, Financial Information Systems. And ideally, hiring someone that at least is familiar with SAP is a great advantage, or even familiar with financial systems in a higher ed environment. But SAP is definitely a highly sought after expertise as well. And then with student services, so in these roles, there could be anything from a front-facing role like reception or working in housing, right on to a learning strategist, or even working with international students, or even working with people that need mental health support. So many of these roles, anything to do with students, there is an advantage for people that have an equity, diversity training and awareness, as used to dealing with the international population, because many of our students are international, and also working with mental health with young people. A lot of student services roles, that is an advantage if you can have some sort of awareness or background in the areas that I just mentioned. Marketing and communications is a little more straightforward. Of course, if you've worked in higher ed or government before, that's always desirable. But working across digital platforms, just-in-time news, that's a highlight for those areas. And then in the administrative and reception areas, and I want to include HR in here as well. So with administration, a lot of these roles, again, it's very fast-paced, high volume. You're dealing with a lot of different people. You're also interacting with students. Students are what we're all here for. And so being able to interact with students, domestic, international, and any type of situations in those interactions is always a positive. And with human resources, because U of T is environment, most of the roles will want someone that has experience working in a unionized environment, has experience with collective agreements, with labor relations, with grievances, with job evaluations and job performance. That is a big part of what the HR community is managing. So, and again, like all of these examples that I'm providing, you know, the job postings will give a lot more details. I'm just giving you an overview. And then with information technology, security is very big. You know, with IT, we've got student records, student marks, applications, admissions, and also, you know, all our employee private information. So there's a lot of layers to working at IT. So that's also a great field. And actually, that's a rather challenging one to fill as well. Okay. So here we go. I want to talk a little bit about the recruitment cycle. So when you're applying for a job at the University of Toronto, I just want to, as a recruiter, share some tips about what to keep in mind when you're submitting your application. So the first part of the process is the job posting. So the job posting is there to fill a need, and the qualifications, the skills that are required, hard, soft, human, whatever skill, everything is listed in the job posting. And what the job posting is there to do is to help you design your documents. It's to let you know, this is what we want, this is what we need, and then your documents should, you know, reflect as much as possible each of the qualifications that are listed in the posting. And when I say each of the qualifications, if there are like 10 qualifications, whether it be education or, you know, a certain amount of years experience in a certain field, or, you know, working with certain databases, certain systems, or having certain certifications, these are all the things that we're looking for. And so when someone is submitting a resume, or sorry, their documents, it doesn't matter the posting, even if the postings are similar. Like, say, for instance, you're looking for, you know, finance and accounting roles. So you're thinking one resume should be able to apply to any accounting role. Unfortunately, that's not correct. Each posting has its own requirements, and that is what they're looking for. And so that's why we ask for a tailored resume and cover letter as well. A cover letter is a part of the application. There are times when people have submitted only a resume, and I would err on the side of caution here, meaning submit a resume and also submit a cover letter. And the purpose for that is the cover letter is a good way for us to read and review your written communication skills, how you market yourself, how you share your ideas. And it's also still, you know, a pretty complete application. I know there's some talk out there about just submitting a resume alone. And, you know, I guess you have to take a chance on that, and also, you know the organization and know what they want, right? Some may say just submit a resume and that's fine, you've got your instruction. But if it doesn't give that kind of instruction, then ideally it would be best to submit both documents. So once the job posting closes, also in the job posting, there is salary information. So please know what the position pays. Many times there could be a hiring range if you look in the salary information. And if it mentions a hiring range, what that means is that ideally the person that gets the role will be offered a number within that hiring range. And the reason why is because of pay equity. So there may be a lot of people that have similar roles and similar pay bands, and you know their entry point, they would have made a certain amount of money. And so keeping that in mind, there are other factors like a person's years of experience and their knowledge, etc. But the hiring band is ideally where they would like to have somebody start, keeping in mind the pay equity principles. Okay, so, and then with the job posting as well, just to finish off, we have our equity statements in there. So there, I mentioned before that equity, diversity, inclusion is embedded at every point possible in the recruitment cycle. And one of the things it starts out is in the job posting. So you'll see that there's a lived experience statement. You'll see that there's a diversity statement and there is a accessibility statement. And so all of these statements are meant to welcome and encourage people from all spheres of life to apply for positions and that they will be considered based on their qualifications. And it has to be there, it has to be visible in order to demonstrate the university's commitment, but then as well to show people that, yes, this is a contract that they're offering. And so, you know, I can go ahead and apply and they'll support me so that I have a good candidate experience. So I think that's all I'll say about the job posting. And then two, for the resume screening. So this is also a very important part because going back to the qualifications that's listed on the job posting, we use the qualifications, we prepare what's called a candidate matrix. So on one side of the matrix, it's like a spreadsheet or 2 columns. You'll have the qualifications on one side. It could be on the vertical side. These are all the qualifications that are listed. And then on the horizontal side, the candidates that are most qualified based on the requirements and based on what's in their documents, these are the candidates that get shortlisted for further review. So these applicants that have taken the time to tailor their documents based on the job posting, meet the requirements as much as possible. That pool is the first pool of shortlisting. And from there, the hiring manager is going to review, you know, whatever bunch of applications have been selected, and they are the ones that determine who they think is best suitable for the role, but you know, who they would like to interview. So that's why it's very important to have tailored documents for every posting, even though it may seem like you're applying for the same types of roles. Each one has its own set of criteria that were used to shortlist candidates on. Okay, and then 3, there is the interview process. And so once someone has been selected for an interview, they will be invited to an interview, and it's going to be an interview panel. So there will be 3, 4, sometimes 5, depending upon the role. So HR is usually on the panel, the hiring manager, and a couple of colleagues that this person will be working with. So, and the reason why there is a panel is to minimize bias, right? So, because if one person is interviewing, there may be an opportunity for bias, and we all have bias. And in fact, because we all have bias, everyone that's in the interview, every panelist on the interview has to conduct training on unconscious bias. Everyone has to do the training on that, to be aware of their biases and to make sure that they're rating people based on the requirements of the position. And that's a very important part. There are accommodations as well for people that require interviews, that require accommodations for interviews. So if a candidate has been selected and they've self-identified that they require an accommodation for their interview, HR connects them with the accessibility expert to make sure that they get whatever supports that they need in order to, again, you know, have a fair and equitable experience as an applicant going through an interview. Now, based on the interviews, there could be a presentation, there could be a competency exercise. So it's not just, you know, talking and, you know, answering questions. There's also an element of some sort of technical skill assessment. So there's that. Now, once all the interviews have been done, the recruitment panel, they get together, they do their scoring, they share their comments and their notes, and they determine who is the best person to proceed with reference checking. And I must say that in some of the job postings, there are high volumes of applications. And it is difficult and it takes a long time to go through all the resume screening. That's the candidate matrix is very important. And that's why, the interview panel meeting and talking about the candidates and why they think that they're best suited for the role. This whole process takes a long time, but whoever is selected for the next stage, which is reference checks, then we do the reference checks prior to making an offer. The reference checks have to be 3 either current or former work supervisors. And why? Because they are the people that speak best about your work and the quality of your work and you as an employee. So we don't accept colleagues, anyone that isn't in a supervisory role. And so just, keeping that in mind that, when you make it to the interview stage or when you make it to reference check stage, that's the criteria to move forward. Once the reference checks are complete and they're positive, then an offer is made, right? A verbal offer is made, followed by an actual letter that you can review. And then once you sign it and return it, then the onboarding starts. Okay. And then just in general, going through this whole recruitment process, from job posting to offer, it could take a couple of months or maybe even more. So just to let you know that, because I know many people have said, oh, I applied for this job 2 weeks ago. Can you tell me, what's going on? And our standard answer is that, the recruitment is open. We can't speak about the recruitment until it's actually closed, meaning an offer and the person has accepted the role. But just know that going through all these various steps, it can take a minimum of about 2 months. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to talk about UTemp a little bit. So the recruitment cycle that I just shared was for postings that you see on the career site. And that's what you would go through. Now, UTemp is another viable way of coming to work at the university. It's the university's internal staffing service. And so what the recruiters do, so it's a small team. There are 2 recruiters and a payroll person. And what they do is they work with the hiring managers to fill any kind of short-term needs in their respective departments. So short-term needs is anything 6 months and under. Initially, 6 months and under. That's considered casual work. And with casual work, there aren't any benefits offered for casuals. There's benefits offered for other types of roles, contract, permanent, etc. But for casual, no. And then the reason why a hiring manager may have a need, they vary. Like sometimes a person goes on a leave. It could be a personal leave, a sick leave. Sometimes people go off to study and do their master's or working on their thesis and they want time off. There's those types of leaves. Then there are leaves where there's vacancies where, say, a person has gone on to another position. So that role the work still needs to get done. And they need someone in temporarily while they figure out, or while they post the role and recruit for the position. So, there's another opportunity there. And then sometimes there are internal projects where they have to pull people from their roles. But again, that work needs to get done. And so they're going to need someone to cover in the short term. So those are some of the reasons why hiring managers would reach out to UTemp, looking to hire someone for on a contract basis. And now for people that are interested in doing casual work, one, it's a great way to get experience working in different areas of the university. It's a great way to learn the systems. So learning the FIS for the financials, the HRIS for HR administration. And then there are some students platforms like Quarkus. So learning how to send out communications, upload marks, all those kind of technical activities, a UTEMP employee has the ability to learn them through various contracts working through UTEMP. And it's a great way to be have a competitive edge over other people, other external people that are applying for roles at the university. Because one, you've built your valuable experience by working in different areas. You've built a valuable experience by learning the technical skills, learning the interactions, learning the strategic priorities of some of the units. And that definitely puts people at a competitive advantage when they're applying for roles. As well with a casual, many of the roles are roughly 3 months. So, initially someone could be presented a role that has 2 weeks on it. And yes, it may last 2 weeks because someone has gone on a vacation. However, the role could last longer because if there is a recruitment going on or there's, some other departmental activities going on, the work needs to get done and, people can continue to get extended in a role and it could go way beyond the initial 2 weeks. It could go beyond 3 months. It is capped though, because according to, collective agreements, casual work has to be capped, I think it's 13 months, don't quote me, but somewhere around there. And then after that, the person is offered, potentially offered permanent roles. So there is a cap on how long someone can be a casual employee. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say about that. Oh yeah, sorry. So how you apply. So again, on the careers page, to the UTEMP link, you're going to set up a profile. The profile is going to be a questionnaire about your availability and the campus locations you're interested in working in, and as well, you'll upload a resume and a cover letter. So I would recommend to people before they upload the resume and the cover letter that they look at the postings that are on the career site. And the reason why you're looking at the postings is because you want to see some of the requirements, some of the qualifications that whatever roles you're interested in or whatever areas you're interested in, what those requirements are. And if you have them, right, or if you have anything similar, then, incorporate that wording into your resume, into your cover letter. The reason why it's really important is because ultimately, UTEMP is hiring for the same roles that the university is hiring for on the career site. It's just offered on a casual basis. So you're allowed to be as comprehensive as you want to be on your profile documents. And then when you actually apply for jobs, then you tailor them. But I would say, do some research, do some due diligence, and look at some of the language that some of these postings are displaying about the qualifications that they're looking for. And if you have them, yes, incorporate them into your documents. So you set up your profile, and then you're there. On the UTEMP site, you will not see job postings only because recruitment is a just-in-time activity. So once a request comes in, then the recruiters are working diligently to do their keyword searches and reach out through the database to find candidates that they think meet the requirements for this role. So there isn't that time, and it's not really a good use of time to spend time posting a role onto the UTEMP site, knowing that it could be taken down a day or two later. So that's why, when you apply to UTEMP, you kind of just apply and then you wait. And you just know that when there's an opportunity that matches your skills and experiences, you will get an invite in your email, which will have the job specs, and then gives you the opportunity to create a tailored resume and cover letter to submit for that opportunity. So that's kind of how that works. And then the hiring manager again will review the candidate pool, the applicant pool, and then they will determine who they would like to interview. That person is interviewed along with some others, but whoever they select, we have to do our due diligence as well by interviewing them, reference checking them, and then onboarding them as well. So UTEMP does full cycle recruitment and looks after all the administration like payroll, tax forms, et cetera, et cetera. The advantage for a UTEMP employee is that potentially they could keep working like, contract after contract after contract, and they get to work in many different areas of the university. So I think that's it for now. And then I suppose, when we get to Q&A, if you have other questions about UTEMP or any of the other things I mentioned, then we can get into that. Here we go. So I just wanted to provide about, some of the rumblings that are out there about how U of T hires. So when I say no preference, that we're looking to hire the most qualified candidates, many times roles are posted internally and externally at the same time, right? Especially unionized roles. Well, I think all of them. The intention is to hire the most qualified candidate. So while, there is a lot of upward mobility and ability to try different roles once you're an employee at the university, you still have to meet the qualifications. And for some roles, the qualifications that are needed may come from outside, meaning an external candidate. And so, yes, ideally, yes, we would like to hire a U of T employee, but again, the evidence-based recruitment process is what's used in order to defend decision. Whether it's defending it to the union or, just defending it within the whole recruitment process, evidence-based recruitment is where it's at. Okay. And another kind of trend is, applicant tracking systems using keywords to eliminate applications, meaning sometimes people may not have a certain amount of keywords, or they may not have any keywords or something like that. And sometimes people think that these ATSs or even AI is responsible for the recruitment or the candidate selection. And so I want to say that it's not true, that each and every application that is submitted for any of the recruitments, they were reviewed by recruitment professionals. So one, we want to make sure that internal candidates don't get ignored, excuse me. And two, we need to review, or recruitment needs to review all the specs against the candidate matrix. Sometimes AI doesn't respond well to nuances and may make the decision that someone is not a good candidate when actually they are. But part of our recruitment process is humans are looking at all the resumes to minimize bias, to minimize anyone being overlooked. So I just want to be clear about that part. And then this last point about data analytics for assessment and accountability. This is important because our equity and diversity practices within recruitment, they are constantly evolving. As an institution that is probably one of the top diversity hires, or employers, whether it be, persons with disabilities, 2S LGBTQ+, any underrepresented communities, indigenous communities, the only way we'll know how, as an institution, how we're doing in our recruitments, in our recruitment goals, is if we gather information and assess it and look at opportunities to improve the processes, to close the gaps. So I'll use an example. When people apply for a job, there's also the diversity survey that comes up. It is optional to fill it out, but from that data, HR and the leaders are able to determine who is applying for jobs at the university. Where do we still need to do more work to meet communities and to encourage communities to want to consider working at the university, consider U of T as an employer of choice. So the data analytics helps us make a lot of decisions, improve our processes. So, and that's the only way you can get better and also hold ourselves accountable about areas that we need to work in as well. So there's that piece. Now, so why work here? Why work at the University of Toronto? Well, there are a lot of good things. I read a quote once that someone said, U of T is it's a challenging environment, but you also get challenged. So there is a lot in that statement because yes, the benefits are great. There's a lot of supportive communities that that you can join that they look like you, they have the same faith as you, they have the same interests as you. So there's ability to build friendships and build communities at the university. There's great benefits. There's also great career trajectories for people as well that want this. Some people, they're great in their role and they like their role. And then there are other people that aspire for, say, leadership roles. And whatever the aspiration is, there are supports from the people leaders, from your managers, from your supervisors. There are lots of trainings that are available, mentorships, career development. And then there's also workshops that are offered or training that's offered for work-life balance. So, we spend a good chunk of our life at work, but there also is a lot of stuff that's going on outside of work. And so helping people to manage some of these other key moments in life. There are lots of mental health supports in general for people so that they can be their best self, not just at work, but, outside of work. In fact, last week I saw a Right to Disconnect news thing about, I think it was in Australia. They were just, incorporating that. And I was like, U of T, we started doing this from the pandemic, the right to disconnect, So, through data analysis, and accountability, there are different practices that the University of Toronto, I think, is at the forefront in leading, such as the right to disconnect. But in general, my experience working at U of T, I started the Career Center working with students, and then I went into recruitment with UTEMP, and now in talent acquisition. And I've loved every single role. I've loved working with students. I think the student population is amazing, and they're very diverse, and you learn to give back as well. And then in UTEMP, it's been great to help people actually secure work at the university through their own means, like through their own great work. But that's also been very fulfilling for me. And then in this role in talent acquisition, I like the diversity of the role in the sense that I'm working with HR, working, with our hiring managers, but then I'm also by extension too, working with community and trying to provide whatever advice and support that I can so that when they're submitting their applications, that they have a good experience, either when they submit their applications or when they have an interview. I do know that it can be a challenge, can take a bit of time for people to get to the university. And I would just say, be patient, take some of these tips in mind and keep applying because it is a great place to work. So, with that, I finished my part, but I think, Anne, if you wanted to, I should share this about Anne. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this.
I share
So,
it. Great presentation.
yes, I just wanted to share the fact that in my talent acquisition role, where I was working with a hiring manager, School of Continuing Studies, who was looking to, was having a bit of difficulty filling the role because it was a contract position. They reached out to me to go through LinkedIn and, share the role with a variety of community partners to enrich the applicant pool. Well, one of the people that I reached out to was Anne Park. So Anne and I had, good dialogue. We had good conversations. She was surprised that I reached out to her and, very appreciative. And we talked about the recruitment process and the like. And, the good story is the good, tale is that Anna's now here at the university working in a role that she's perfect for. And so that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. So I just want to throw that right in there as well.
You're doing a
Yeah.
great job, Sharon.
Thank you. I was like, how could I forget about you? Yeah. So, did anyone else want to share their story, Anne, about what it's like working at the university?
Yes, Sharon, we have so many questions. I will share
Okay.
briefly though about how it worked with recruitment, like my own experience. So I saw this position on the U of T website as a career strategist. I was thinking of applying, but I wasn't in a rush to do it because I thought, oh, it's U of T. Come on. I mean, I'm not an alumni. I applied to U of T as part of my master's, in social work. I didn't get in. I just didn't think I was U of T material. So I wasn't really jumping to it because again, I think that there is so much misconception out there, Sharon, that only certain people can get hired at U of T. And I thought that I did not fit into that, right? I just thought I wouldn't
Right.
get in. So I get this message from this Sharon person on LinkedIn saying that I'd be a good fit for this opportunity. And I thought, oh, come on, is this a scam? So I looked Sharon up. I saw, no, this is actually what she does. And so we had, oh, I'm so sorry someone told you that you're not a good fit. Oh, there's a place for everyone. Someone said that Mary said that they're not good. That's not true, Mary. There's a place for everyone. So anyway, Sharon convinced me that I was a good fit. And she actually helped me because I didn't put certain information on my LinkedIn. And I thought, well, this went very well. I like this Sharon person, whoever she is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I thought, well, it's an honor just to be contacted. I'll probably get an interview, but that's as far as it goes. And I think going into the interview, because I was feeling so like, no way, come on. No way. I was more relaxed, I guess. And so I didn't do a ton of preparation. I did some, but for other interviews where I felt like I had a chance, I did way more, but then I was also more nervous. So I had this interview. I liked the people. There were 3 or 4. I can't remember. I know we've had some discussion in this chat, and I was hired. This was last December. Wow. But it's just amazing. And I think I really want to get to these questions, but I guess, Sharon, I think it's very important. I share the message that, of course, we're talking about U of T here today, but when people tell you you're not a good fit for a particular company, or if there are jobs or like positions that you'd like to have, like if you'd like to work for Google or Disney, I'm just trying to think of places where people are like, whoa, or Microsoft, were some really popular places. I don't know. And people are saying, no, you can't do it. You don't have a chance because you don't have a PhD or you're not whatever it is. Don't let that get to you. Like put that aside because there's, if it's something that you really want, there are ways. And if you are applying for a job or if you connect with people for companies you really want to work for, that enthusiasm will come shining through. And people are more likely to want to have you on their team if you're applying to a job that you feel very strongly about. So
Yes.
I didn't want to spend too much time talking about that. Sharon, I made notes of questions that were asked in
Okay.
chat. I'm going to ask them per order. So this is not, on I like this person's name or this person had a better question. It's just the order, Sharon, and
Okay.
everyone. And for those of you who don't have your questions asked, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, Sharon, we'll make sure to send those questions to you via email, the ones that weren't answered. And so hopefully you'll have a chance in your busy schedule, because I know you do so many amazing things for us at U of T, but if you can maybe respond to those questions when you get the
Yes.
time, thank you so much. And we'll share them on our website. So let me get to them. I made some notes here. I'm big into notes.
Okay.
Okay. So you shared in the presentation, Sharon, that you participate in in-person events. And I put in the chat, if you can meet recruiters such as yourself, like that's like in person, that's great. So a few folks asked, how can our participants meet you in person? What would you suggest?
Well, it's hard to say because, there's obviously more people than the one person of myself, but one I attend job fairs, so UTEMP and tend to partner together at job fairs. And one way to know about events is by joining our LinkedIn page. The University of Toronto has a LinkedIn page, and there, we share events that we're attending. So that's one way to get in front of a recruiter. But many times it's really, we could use LinkedIn to connect. It, it is difficult to meet people like one-on-one just because, that would keep me from doing a lot of the work that I need to do. But I am okay with interacting with people. I do have, make time for information interviews and for sharing insights about particular jobs, but usually through LinkedIn. So I don't want to say, oh, I have an open door office, because unfortunately I do not. But also there are lots of supports out there for people where they can connect with like career advisors or career centers and the like, and some they can help part way, you know what I mean? Whatever support that they can provide, because that's what they're here to do as well. So that's kind of the answer there.
Thanks, Sharon. So please do, everyone, go on LinkedIn. Make sure to follow, is it UTEMP and U of T Hires, Sharon?
Well, there's myself personally, could just look me up by my name, but then the University of Toronto LinkedIn page.
Good to know. Thanks. Yeah, and that's great advice. Thank you. Okay, next question. As you mentioned, and as we know, I mean, you found me on LinkedIn. Sometimes you recruit people via LinkedIn. So someone asked, explained that they're currently unemployed. And, they asked me they said, well, people say that you shouldn't put LinkedIn's is not for unemployed people. And I say, I totally disagree with that. And they also asked, how do I deal with gaps in my resume on LinkedIn? Like, as a recruiter and you see gaps, like, what would you suggest that folks do? And is it like a red flag? Because obviously right now, during this current climate, there are lots of layoffs, various complicated reasons why people might be unemployed for periods of time. And I can understand that might be a red flag for someone like you, but how do folks deal with that, Sharon?
Well, I mean, as a recruiter, I'm looking for people that have the skills and experiences to do the roles, right? There are people that have gaps, they're in between jobs. Whatever, there's as long as they have what their position requires, then that's fine. It is understandable that sometimes there are gaps, and sometimes it is better to address the gap. So it could be traveling, or it could be family commitments, or it could be in between professions or in between jobs or something like that. So sometimes it's wise to address the gaps and not let people fill in the gap for themselves, right? And then another thing and this also depends on, you, it's like sometimes it's wise to keep doing things. Just because you're not working, you can volunteer or take a course. There are a lot of free courses that are available online to upgrade technical skills, or to, professional writing skills or something like that. The point is to stay active in whatever way possible, because it demonstrates the commitment to want to continue in this profession and to stay on top of what's needed to be in that profession. And then I would also say that those are my answers, but working with employment counselors or career advisors, sometimes those are the best people to help you build a strategy in order to figure out, one, how to address those gaps, and two, how to speak about them when it comes to when you're in an interview.
Thanks, Sharon. Those were great responses. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much. Next question I made note of. This is very specific, but I think it's interesting. Okay, so Sharon, as a recruiter, on LinkedIn, when you choose that banner, the green one that says open to work, and then you select recruiters only, can we just double check? Is this official? You can see that because you are a recruiter.
Yes.
Is that how it works? Okay,
yes. But I have I just want to be clear that I have a special license It's a
Mm.
license for recruiter. So it's not the premium license. It's not the general one that everyone has. With mine, because LinkedIn, they charge for this license, and they
Oh,
also offer a lot of services and a lot of products in order to help our recruitment, help our engagements with the LinkedIn communities. So I have access to I can search for people based on those that are open for work, those that have connections with people at U of T. There's a lot of different criterias that I can use when I'm searching for candidates that are not available to people that do not have the recruiter license.
that's interesting. And I'm really glad to hear that because it makes me think that, I mean, I know that LinkedIn isn't 100% secure, Sharon, but at least prevents people who are just kind of trying to, find vulnerable folks out there, take
Yeah,
advantage of them from reaching out to them. So that's really good to hear. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
And
Um,
it's a networking tool as well. So if people want to build careers with the university and they want to connect with key people and find out more of, about their areas, about their roles, LinkedIn is the place to go to find these people. LinkedIn is also where organizations promote their positions. They promote some of the things that they're proud of, whether it be initiatives or numbers or whatever. So it's a networking, it's a professional community.
Yes, so LinkedIn really is an important tool, everyone. I know it can be challenging for various folks out there for different reasons, but it is an important tool to help us all and help recruiters like Sharon.
And I'd
Um,
also say,
yeah.
keep your LinkedIn profile up to date as well. Up to date meaning if you get a new job or there's a new accomplishment or there's a new skill that you've learned, anything, keep that up to date because you never know, that may be something that I may enter into the criteria and that may increase your chances of showing up in my search.
And if I can just add to that,
Yeah.
Sharon, because I actually asked you this when in our very first conversation, at the time I omitted the year that I graduated with my first degree, because I was concerned about ageism out there, and I
Right.
told you about that, and you said no, include that, and I actually didn't want to include my degree. My first degree was in drama. And I thought, oh, come on, like maybe you folks out there won't take it seriously, or they'll just think that it's not relevant. But Sharon said, no, include that.
It's all a part of you. And I mean, there's a lot of transferable skills from, excuse me, different types of degrees. And if you can sell it or, excuse me, present it in a way that it's helped you in your roles or it helped create some passion, like drama, public speaking, for sure. And you're probably a great in-person presenter as well. And there's no doubt that those skills come from your drama degree.
Thanks for that,
Yeah.
Sharon. So
So look
please
for the relevancy for sure. That I would say don't discount. I mean, yeah, many times I've come across people and they'll tell me things. I'm like, why isn't it in your resume? It's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like, who told you that? You know?
Yeah, and I mean, it makes you special. I mean, not to sound corny, but
That's
it does
right.
make you special. It makes you
Yes.
stand out above the rest, above the competition. So
Agreed.
absolutely, Sharon. I love that you encouraged me to do that when I was being considered. I have another question about project management. Someone wants to know about project management opportunities. That's a whole other story. There are project
Right.
management opportunities. And in fact, project management skills, those can be applied to so many different jobs. But if we can just maybe put that in the back burner for now, but I hope that at least helps to create some awareness. You didn't mention this, Sharon, I wasn't sure. I didn't catch this part, but this was a good question. Someone asked, do you use the ATS? Because from my understanding, you don't. U of T doesn't use an ATS because is that right? Can you please
Well,
clarify?
success factors that's I guess for layman terms, that's our ATS.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's more than an ATS because HR information is pulled from this platform that we use, Success Factors. So there's a lot of information and stats and everything that is pulled from SuccessFactors, but it is the tool that is used for recruitment
Okay, so that's
and
great to know.
hiring.
And
Yeah.
hiring. So U
Yes.
of T does use an automatic tracking system, but but it does so much more than
That's
just
right.
pick up
That's right.
keywords.
Yes. It
Mhm.
does a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of, because like I said, it's, it's U of T is a very complex environment with a lot of different unions and employee groups, and all that information flows in and out of SuccessFactors.
Wow, incredible. You have such a huge job. Wow. Thank you for that. So I hope that
You're
answered the
welcome.
question. We have information shared about the hiring website. Okay, this is an interesting one. Okay. I never even thought about this. So someone asked, using it's called SuccessFactors, that system that you use.
Yes.
Okay, so does SuccessFactors screen resumes and cover letters that have been created using AI?
Ah,
I love that question. It's so interesting. I never
yes.
thought about, but I guess these days it's quite common. I mean, people use it all the time. Like AI is a thing.
Yes. Yes. Well, what can I say about AI? Okay, so the SuccessFactors does not screen for AI. No, no.
Mm.
Because remember, I was saying that as a recruitment or HR professional that goes through each one of the resumes for their recruitments, right? So sometimes I find with AI, they don't write like how a person would write.
Yeah.
All right. So without giving too much away, let's put it this way. It doesn't serve anybody to use AI or to embellish in any kind of way their documents, because if based on the documents an interview is granted, then the person needs to be able to demonstrate through their experiences, through their accomplishments, through their observations, through their learning, that they can do that particular piece of the work, or they can do the job. So, and you don't know what questions you're going to be asked, right? And so AI will get you so far, yes, but once you get to the interview stage and you've got to market yourself and talk about your accomplishments, and then also your referees are going to have to be able to back up some of the things you say as well. These are things to keep in mind when using AI.
Yeah, and actually I was kind of thinking that you would provide a response like that. So it's one thing to be able to use AI, but when you're actually sitting in front of the interviewer, you have to be able to back it up. So there's
Yeah.
only so much that you can use it, but that is a really good question. I'm going to ask one last question, Sharon, because I'm mindful of the time. There was a question asked before then about before this one, sorry. It was regarding referrals from recent retired directors. I'll make sure to ask Sharon that through email so you get the answer. But the big question here is, Sharon, and I answered this a little bit in the chat. I've applied to, and this has been asked in various ways, folks have applied to U of T many times and there's been no response. As a final response and a nice way to tie this up to kind of end things for this incredible session today, could you please respond to that? So folks out there have been applying to jobs at U of T for so long, jobs that they probably felt like they were the perfect fit for, and they have not heard back. With
Right.
going on, Sharon, what would you suggest as a final conclusion to this incredible presentation today?
Okay. Well, one from on my side as a recruiter, U of T, I think posted like maybe, I don't know, 2,000 jobs last year, let's just say. And each one of those recruitments can generate up to 500 applications. So, and then I showed you the recruitment process and how long it takes for each recruitment, right? So the reality is, when you submit an application, I believe you get a confirmation that says your application was received. And then, you don't hear anything again until you're selected for an interview. So the unfortunate thing is there just isn't enough people to be able to respond to every single applicant to let them know the status of their application. It's just impossible. Unfortunately, U of T receives a lot of applications every single job every year. So that's the reality. And then the other piece of it is as someone that's applying for jobs, all I can say is, we are not intentionally ignoring people. It would slow down the recruitment process for sure. But all I can say, is I'm going to be empathetic, and I'm going to say, just keep applying for roles, keep tailoring your documents, keep having information interviews, going to events, networking and that, and just keep going until something happens. And I would also, even though we're talking about careers at the University of Toronto, apply to other higher ed institutions as well. And then, if, for some reason you should get into one of those higher ed institutions, you're great, you're doing the work, you're getting paid, but you're building up your skills and your experiences, and you can still continue to apply to U of T, and that may give you a bit more leverage for the next role that you apply for. So it's really, I think job search is a really unforgiving process until you actually land a job. It's very stressful and it's very hard on everybody. But honestly, just to keep going and keep applying, keep reaching out and making relationships and making connections with people will go a long way in helping you figure out what the institution needs. But as well, you're connecting with people, and it tends to be a little softer when you actually know someone or you've actually connected with somebody. Sometimes that disappointment is a little softer, and it gives you the courage to keep going on and just keep applying. I've applied for many jobs, even here at U of T, that I didn't get. And yeah, it's a bit of a bummer and all that, but don't know, like, you just have to keep going. That's just the human condition. We just keep going.
Thanks for that, Sharon.
I hope that's helpful. I mean, I don't want to, negate people's experiences. But I think, yeah, applying for jobs or job search is a very stressful activity. And that's one of the reasons why I got into and got my career development professional designation, is so that, I can have, I think, enriching conversations with people and provide options and solutions.
Well, it's amazing to have someone like you who's so empathetic as a recruiter, because I don't think that that's necessarily a common thing. I wish there were more folks out there like you, who understand how difficult it is to be looking for employment and dealing with feelings of, rejection and frustration. But I feel like this was definitely encouraging and empowering for me. And I hope for all of you. And so on that note, I would like to say thank you to Sharon McBean, who has joined us today and facilitated an amazing presentation. Thank you so much, Sharon. And
my pleasure.
This has been fun. I really look forward to continued conversations with you. And we know we have some exciting things coming up for us.
That's right.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Definitely is.
And I would like to thank all of you out there for joining us. We couldn't have these amazing presentations without you. I mean, we base our success on participation from our audience, incredible questions. Again, I apologize to those whose questions were not answered, but I will reach out to Sharon with these questions.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get some answers. And on that note, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Check us out on YouTube within a few weeks. Listen to an audio recording and reach out to me. But thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
And join the U of T LinkedIn page as well.
Join it. It's great. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Anne
Thank you.
and Carla.
Thanks, Carla.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.